Hello everybody and welcome to English in the Afternoon. In the previous video, we talked about simple sentences. Here, we'll talk about compound sentences. So what is a compound sentence? Well, a compound sentence is basically one sentence that is made up of two sentences which are connected together with a coordinating conjunction. For example, the video game was very interesting, so I played it for 2 hours. Or the food is delicious, but I really can't eat anymore. Or he was ready to go to school and his mom was ready to drive him. Now let's take a look at these type of sentences in more detail and see how they really work and what makes them compound. In that first example, the video game was very interesting, so I played it for 2 hours. We can see that this sentence is actually made up of two sentences. The video game was very interesting. I played it for 2 hours. What we did to make these two sentences into one is use a conjunction so, or more accurately, comma, so. Similarly with the second sentence, the food is delicious, but I really can't eat anymore. This sentence is again made up of two sentences. The food is delicious, I really can't eat anymore. However, in this case, the conjunction we used is but, or comma and but. And again, he was ready to go to school and his mom was ready to drive him. Again, we see that this sentence is made up of two sentences. He was ready to go to school, his mom was ready to drive him. This time, however, we use and as a conjunction. But what are conjunctions and how do we use them? Actually, their full name is coordinating conjunctions, and they are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. In short, we call these guys fanboys. Now let's take a little closer look at how they work. For. For is the same as because. The only difference is that when we use for, we have to use a comma. And when we use because, we do not use a comma. So in this sentence, I was late for school, for I could not find my bag on time, is actually the same as saying I was late for school because I could not find my bag on time. I should say that in 90% of cases, people will usually say or write, I was late for school because I could not find my bag on time. In other words, we don't really use for all that much. And. We use and when we want to connect two sentences together that have a similar point or are pointing towards a similar direction. For example, she enjoys math and she's quite good at music too. This means that both math and music are positive points. She is good at both. She enjoys both. Or the movie was really entertaining and it taught me a lot of things. This means that the movie has two positive points. It was entertaining and it was educational. But we need to be careful when we use and because not all ends are the same. For example, if we say the two biggest cities in Canada are Toronto and Montreal, this end is actually not fanboys. In this case, it just means plus. It is used when counting things. Or, nor. These two will do together because they are related. Or is used when there's a choice between two things. This fanboys can be used in a few ways. First, we frequently use it in a question, like, do you want to visit Germany or would you rather go to Poland? This means that we are giving someone an option of what to do. Choose either Germany or choose Poland. Should we have dinner now or should we wait for Sam to come home? Again, we are asked to choose. Have dinner now or wait until Sam gets here. We also use it in a sentence, as in, the driver can stop the bus or he can continue driving. We basically have two options of what the bus driver can do, stop or drive. Or Japan can host the Olympics or it can host the World Cup. Again, two choices. Of course, here the implication is that Japan can do one or the other, but it cannot do both. The last way we can use or is with either. This is just another way to offer a choice between two things. For instance, she can either do her homework or she can practice the piano. We need to say either in the first part of the sentence and then use or as fanboys. The choice here is between doing homework and practicing piano. The use of either in this case is not completely necessary. The sentence can also work without it. For instance, she can do her homework or she can practice the piano. But we use either in order to emphasize the choice between the two things, and also to really point out that there are only two choices available and she cannot really do both. Same with this one. My dad can either help us build the table or he can help us wash the car. Again, the implication is that there are only two choices and that we have to choose one, and we cannot choose both. Nor. Nor is very similar to or, but it is used when both choices are negative. For example, James Harden cannot play defense, nor can he shoot the ball very well. This means that he is terrible at doing both things. Both of those options are in the negative. He cannot do either. Or, my car is not very fast, nor is it efficient on fuel. Again, both of those points are about the car being negative. It is not fast, and it is not efficient. Just as we use either with or, we can use neither with nor. For example, this movie is neither interesting, nor is it easy to understand. Again, this is just to emphasize that both points are negative. The movie is not interesting and not easy to understand. Or, I was disappointed to learn that Paris is neither clean nor that it is very safe. But. But is used when the second sentence does not agree with the first sentence. For example, BMW makes some amazing cars, but they are sometimes too expensive. Here we basically like one aspect of BMW, the fact that it makes some good cars, but we don't like the other aspect, the fact that they are sometimes too expensive. Or, the new restaurant is pretty far from my house, but the food is fantastic. Again, the two sentences do not agree with one another. The restaurant is too far from my house is a negative point, but the food is fantastic is positive. Yet. Yet is similar to but. It is used to show contrast between two things. Also, we frequently use it with and in front of it. For example, my phone fell from the third floor, yet it did not break. Here we expect the phone to break when it falls from the third floor, but it does not. Or, we were supposed to finish the assignment 3 days ago, and yet we are still working on it. Here we use and yet, not just yet. It does not really change the meaning of the sentence, it just adds more contrast between the two statements. So, we use so to show the consequence of something, as in one thing happened, so it caused another thing to happen. For example, I knew the test was going to be very hard, so I studied 4 days ahead of time. The second statement is the cause of the first statement. Or for example, this one. The cup of tea was very small, so I had to drink 2. This means that the size of the cup caused me to drink 2 cups of tea. And that's pretty much it. Those will be the fanboys. But there are a few rules we must remember when using fanboys. Rule number 1. Never begin a sentence with fanboys. Fanboys are designed to join two sentences together, not to begin them. Think of fanboys as glue that keeps a sentence together. We usually start statements with fanboys when we speak, but that's another problem. We can sometimes get away with things when we are speaking, but not when we are writing. There are other words similar to fanboys which can be used to begin sentences. They are called transitions. We'll talk about them later. Rule number 2. Most of the time, we need to use a comma in front of fanboys. For example, Liverpool scored many goals, yet the game was very boring. We need to put a comma in front of yet. Or I got an A in all my subjects this year, so my parents bought me a new car. We need to put a comma before so. The reason we need to use a comma in both of these cases is because we are introducing a subject in the second part of the sentence as well. In that first example about Liverpool, let's just look at it one more time. In the first sentence, the subject is Liverpool. But then there is a second subject after yet, which is the game. Same with the second sentence. In the first part, the subject is I. And then after the fanboys so, the subject is my parents. If you have a sentence where this is the case, where there is a clear subject in the first part of the sentence and in the second part of the sentence, you always need to use a comma. However, if the subject is not used in the second part of the sentence, then there is no need for a comma. For example, we can say, James drove his car to work in the morning, but he did not drive it to the theater at night. Here we need a comma because we repeat the subject. We say James in the first part of the sentence, and then we say he in the second part. But we can reduce this sentence and say James drove his car to work in the morning, but not to the theater at night. In this case, the subject James is used only in the first part of the sentence. In the second part, it is implied that James is still the subject. In this case, we do not need to use a comma because we do not say James or he anymore. Another example. The president of the company opened a new factory and then hired 1,000 new workers. The subject does not change in that sentence. The president did both things, opened a new factory and hired new workers. Therefore, no comma is used. All right, let's test what we learned. The following sentences are all compound. Your job is to use the correct fanboys and to decide if a comma is necessary. Here are the sentences. You can pause the video here. I'll give you a moment to complete the exercise. All right, let's look at the sentences together. Number 1, the book was not that great, comma, but the movie was one of the best I have seen. Number 2, she told me that her father would come to visit, comma, so I spent the entire morning cleaning. Number 3, Germany has the best cars in the world, comma, and it has the most reliable train system. Number 4, she brought me everything I asked for, comma, yet she forgot the most important thing. Number 5, Ferrari makes the fastest cars in the world, but not the most reliable. In this sentence, we do not need a comma because the subject is not repeated after but. Ferrari is the subject for both the first and the second part of the sentence. Number 6, the house was pretty nice, comma, but there weren't any parking spaces. You're probably thinking, wait, there is no subject in the second part of the sentence. But actually, there is a subject. When we say there is or there are, we are basically saying that something exists. Therefore, the subject is implied. Number 7, I could not see or hear anyone in the club, comma, for it was too dark and loud. Number 8, Los Angeles neither has a subway system nor a good biking infrastructure. Again, there is no comma in this sentence because Los Angeles is the subject for both the first and the second part of the sentence. Number 9, she went on vacation to Portugal, comma, and she saw Ronaldo at a coffee shop. And number 10, we can watch Die Hard, comma, or we can watch something more scary. Excellent work, everyone. In the next video, we'll talk about complex sentences.